hackers don't care about who you are, where you are, what you have. They care about how vulnerable you are.
A set of standards and principles among hackers, right? And some have more principles than others. Some have things they would never do. They create their own rules. And so, in a sense, this is what makes them a business. They almost have their own mission statements and visions and what they, what their culture is and what their standards are, and will correct someone who got out of line.
There's the company that you're using a service from. There's all what they call sub-processors of your information. So just because it's the company, you see the logo and the branding and the CEO, there's all these other companies that touch your data one way or another. If any of them in that chain are compromised, your data can be compromised too. And all of us are open to being attacked in some way, shape, or form. And so what people are doing kind of in this underground world is
all of us have heard about how entrepreneurs are individuals who solve problems. They build businesses that actually solves a problem. But what if there are people building businesses that create problems? I want to talk to you today about the business of hacking and why we need to pay close attention to some things that are changing in the world that affect every person we know, and especially actually understanding how it affects you. Today I have with me Marquis Carroll, and he is going to be going deep into this cybersecurity area. And we have the founder and CEO of MSC Security, and it is a wonderful privilege to have you here, Marquis. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And I want to jump in, and we're going to learn more about you as we go. But when you just talk about cybersecurity, for those of that don't understand just this whole arena, what is cybersecurity and why do we need it?
Yeah, so cybersecurity is broken into two words, but it's usually combined, cyber and security. So cyber, anything having to do with technology, the internet, our information, and the security of that. So of course, security and privacy are two different things, but understanding security from the standpoint of making sure that it's protection of our information.
Okay, so what is the difference between security and privacy? I can't just let you just drop that out there like that. What is the difference for people that listen? I'm sure they're concerned about both. Yeah,
that's actually really good. So, you actually look at some of the top companies in the world, and some companies, there's Apple and Samsung. We won't get into those things today, but
yeah, it's a little sensitive. Yeah.
But when we talk about Apple has this branding, and they say Apple is privacy. But why do they say that? It's one thing to say when you give me your basketball. I know you play ball.
Yes,
I like to play ball too.
Yeah.
You give me your basketball and you said, Marquis, keep this basketball safe. Make sure no one steals it. Make sure no one can get into your house and get it.
Okay.
Right? It's one thing for that to be the case, and it's another thing for me to go tell everybody, I have Mr. Michael E. Parker's basketball, and it has Wilson on it, and he bought it from here for this much with this card, and going into all these that's your privacy. No one else should really know that. So it's one thing to keep information safe, like contained and safe, and it's another thing to be able to give away information or sell information to other people about what you did, that transaction.
Wow, okay,
so
that's
different.
Really deep. So before we talk a little bit about you, and I want people to know why you have the credibility to talk about this so well, for people that are looking at this and they're wondering, what does this all mean to me? Cybersecurity, I think about corporate. I think about, all the big companies, and we're gonna talk about some big companies you work for and do work for. But people think this out there. It's, I'm at home. I live at 216, Everybody Avenue, right?
Yeah.
And I don't need to work. Why should people take this seriously? Why does this matter to everyday people?
Yeah, when you think about cybersecurity, you think about your information, you have to ask yourself, everything about your own self, everything that's out there about your life, everything you've done, would you want the whole world to know it? Would you want the world to have access to that?
Wow.
And, that's the difference, right? When we think about cybersecurity, sometimes things have got so bad in the world where people say, hackers are gonna get me anyway. I don't even care. They get my, this and that. They've become desensitized to protecting themselves. But, we don't think about it in this regard, but, we look at people who are, do maybe martial arts and fighting. They tell you protect yourself at all times, right? And it's no different with your digital information. And so this is why you should care, because would you want all your photos that's on your phone to be released? Would you want all your text messages to be released? All your emails, all your private conversations in your home? Would you want that released, right? And so when you think about that, the answer for most normal people would be no. And so that's why it matters. It matters to not only understand enough to protect yourself, but make sure that you empower others to protect themselves so that they don't do things that are insecure.
Wow. That what was kind of hitting me as you were saying that, I really thought that was very, very well said, is the whole cliche of out of sight, out of mind. And I think there's a situation in which there's so many things going on that we can't see.
Yep.
And we've become desensitized, as you were saying, is if I don't know about it, who cares? Like if they got my data, but I don't know about it, I don't see it affecting my bank account, I don't know how it's being used. If it's on the dark web, I'm in the light. I don't know what's going on in the dark, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people have just gotten desensitized. So what is the danger of people getting so desensitized in terms of, because you can't see it sometimes, you don't feel you need to protect it?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is ignorance is not bliss, right? So there was actually this photo in a museum, and it was these. It was on a big wall, and this piece of paper is coming down all the way down into the walkway. And if you looked at what the frame was, what it said, it was the terms and conditions to be on Instagram and Meta and TikTok and all these things. And what's interesting about that, and I bring this up for a reason, is that no one reads the terms and conditions by which they use on any of these tools and these platforms. They just sit, I accept.
Check and keep moving.
Check and keep moving, right? And so if you would read through a lot of those things, you would wonder, why is things like TikTok being banned in the news? Why does that matter? Why is, something else being in the news matter? Why has this become a legislation thing? Why is it getting so much attention? It's because people say, I just want to be a user of technology, but not understand the information that is being taken from me. And so when I use all these platforms, these day-to-day platforms, what is beginning to happen is there's all these lawsuits that just kind of float in the news, and they go out the news. Oh, this large corporation has to pay almost $500 million in fines, and this one has to pay this because they misused information. They breached people's privacy, and it's just a little fine for a company that's making billions of dollars. It doesn't mean anything to them, right? And so everyone is consuming technology, but they don't want to do the work to understand what's happening with the information. As you've mentioned in a lot of your videos, I love watching your videos, by the way.
Thank you.
You talk about how that content has become this engine, and this is what people are monetizing. You get on these platforms, you wonder, why is this free? Because I'm collecting information on you that I'm selling to data brokers, and I'm making millions of dollars. I have enough, these big, and I'm not going to name drop nobody, we'll be careful here, but you think about the biggest companies in the world, how they can offer all these free technologies, but they have all the information on everyone. How powerful is that? I know where you're at. I know your patterns. I know how you spend money. And if I know how you spend money, who's going to pay for that? People who want to advertise to those people. So everything's tied to a business. Now, this is the light side of the business, right? We'll talk about other things, but there's a whole other side of information too, and how that's being monetized.
Wow. I love the saying, if you're using something for free, then you are the product. And so if there's so much of, being leveraged about who we are, what we do, how we think, then that means there's so much out there to protect or to keep private, right? So before we go deeper in this and kind of go more into the dark side, right? I feel like I'm Darth Vader here for a minute, and or Bane said he was born in the dark. He was molded by it, and there's something in the dark that's going on. And I want to give a little background for people who don't know you, and I have a lot of respect for just watching you, even from a young man, just go into this industry, acquire so much knowledge, get into very, very powerful companies and work with powerful companies, that has shaped your ability to have the expertise you have today. And for those of you that don't know, that background, tell a little bit about what has shaped you, like what your journey, like how did you get into this and how did you become so proficient and knowledgeable in this area?
Yeah, I would say, funny thing, I don't tell this story often. When I was younger, a kid, I ran around the house telling my mom I was going to get an MBA in business administration. I thought I was going to be the next business professional. And yeah, I don't think a lot of people knew that. I thought I was going to be, get an MBA. What? And I actually, and I had, of course, growing up, with a spiritual background, I was in a great environment. Yeah. And that environment fostered, education, recreation, and salvation, right? The spiritual side of things. Yeah. And that helped shape and mold my mindset. And let me get that right. Salvation, education, recreation.
Yeah,
let me get
that right.
In order. Yeah, get it in order, get the priorities right?
Right.
So, but when these things began to kind of take place, I got to a point, I actually started going to college, and it was actually in the 8th grade. There was this new multimedia academy that was being promoted at the school I was at. It was the first sort of like cohort of its kind. And we were learning how to build a website in HTML and this and that. And I was this is why I always encourage people to do volunteer activities. At church growing up, I would work on media production, and I would see people doing things, and we got some good friends. Nick is one of them. Everybody in the URCO community knows Nick.
Yes,
and,
they do.
Growing up, watching him, watching many others, and you get this like keen sense that, man, I can probably do this, and I like this, and it's complex and it's difficult, but I like it, right?
Yeah.
So I eventually kept growing up, kept fanning that, kept staying connected. By the time I did go to college, I went to Cal State East Bay. It's East Bay, but it was Hayward. It was Hayward for you.
It was Hayward, that's right.
I was going to Cal State East Bay for computer science, and I remember being in the classes, Comp Sci 1, Comp Sci 2, discrete algorithms, all these classes. And I was like, I started having an issue with some things. The finances of this. And I started saying, and I did well in high school enough to get, FAFSA and get certain grants and things. But I was like, they're telling me, the academic advisor saying you're gonna have to do every quarter for 6 years to get this degree. And I said, man, and you want a new car, you're young, right? I want a car, I want to get my own place. And like, I don't see 6 years down the line, right? So I started making an adjustment. I said, okay, I looked at where the industry was at that time as a tech, kind of tech boom. And that's when your AWSs were coming on the scene and cloud, and people were kind of like, I don't know, this cloud, we're keeping everything in our data center. And it made me really encouraged, because I said, certifications has to be the next wave. And that's where I kind of took a liking to that. Ended up getting certified, and I had different ones take an opportunity on me, and even being able to intern. I even interned with some of your enterprises at certain points,
that's right.
And being able to gain the skill set enough to go start.
Right.
And when I got in the industry, I would say it felt like between the first 4 years of my career, I went from an entry level to a senior, which is like, that's kind of unheard of. But it was just the absorption of the information and trying to grow and progress. The big thing, and I'll conclude, is really going from, it was how you think about these things and these challenges, because the bigger the company, it's the same challenges at scale. So the problem is still the same, which is, you teach a lot of programs and you make things very simple, because it doesn't matter how big, how much money you're making, the problem is still the same. So we got to get to the root, we got to fix the problem. And that level of thinking was able to help me to keep progressing, working for some of the top companies you've probably seen around, apps you use constantly, as well as the government, even government contracting. So
So one thing, before I want you to talk about, maybe, if you don't mind sharing, maybe some of the companies you've worked at and do work for, that people may know. But I want to just first commend you for the way that you really jumped in and start to take action. And I really want to just inspire even a lot of the youth out there. You know, I love your story and journey because as a young person, you made a decision to go and figure out how to do the thing. Right. You know, the thing about college, and I have my master's degree and all those things, so I can talk about it because I went through it and did it. You know, I accomplished it. I'm not talking about it and didn't do it, but I went through it. But college and some of the school system doesn't necessarily teach you how to think, it teaches you what to think.
Exactly.
There's things that are designed in the curriculum to teach you to learn a certain way, but learning how to think is much more powerful, right? And you know, you're in a specific industry where if you know how to do it, it's more powerful than just a piece of paper that says you can do it.
Right.
So you started to actually go and do things that would allow you to get closer to knowing how to do the thing. And so I think that's really, really powerful. So when you started to do that, what are some of the companies that you've had the pleasure of working for and doing work for?
Yeah, I started off in the beginning at Contra Costa County, which is a local kind of government. Then did work at several MSPs, as well as certain healthcare companies that were acquired. But really, like the bigger names is your Glassdoors, your Rubrics, your Twitters, which is now X, owned by Elon Musk, Google, even doing a lot of things, like I said, in government contracting space, and working for a lot, consulting for a lot of federal agencies, you know, police agencies, different things like that. And then even, you know, in the work and things at Google, it's in the consulting capacity. So you think about the largest banks in the world, you think about the largest social media companies, the largest retailers are using certain Google's platform.
Right.
And I'm in the center of consulting to help them do the big thing that you don't even know, you know, came from me helping with that, right?
Right.
And so it's really interesting, you know, when you, again, being in this different arena, you start seeing just the vast way technology is being used by the top companies in the world.
Right. Now, so considering that and all that access you've had access to, I think it is giving you access to the light and the darkness.
Correct.
So let's talk a little bit about the darkness. We're in a new time. We have some of the greatest technology we've ever seen in the hands of everyday people. There's some things I feel like the military has had access to that it always starts with them. They always get it first and have it for years, and then it trickles out to the people. But now what we see in the hands of everyday people with artificial intelligence and all these things is literally just unbelievable, right? But tell me a little bit about cybersecurity, and let's unpack some of the things that are happening today that people may not really know and realize that is taking the spirit of the hacker to another level and actually turning it into a business.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this a little bit.
Yeah, you know, hacking is a business just as much as you see, you know, you come into a wonderful facility like we're in today, and you have a executive suite, you have different people who have different roles in that team. It's the same way, and it's an organized form of crime. And I'm putting it, I'm
organized crime, yeah.
I'm being very direct about how I'm saying this. This is organized crime. How law enforcement looks at it, how the FBI looks at it, this is crime. This is no different than someone vandalizing your home or, you know, stealing your car. When you make reports, there's a lot of different resources out there that will show how certain government agencies took down a hacking organization, right?
Wow.
So you're thinking like, and seized all, you know, hundreds of millions of funds that was stolen and recovered it, right? Really great things. Now, what I want everyone to kind of understand is that, you know, there are exploitations to everything we have. There's vulnerabilities to everything we have. And they have a term out there called 0 day. And a 0 day is a form of a vulnerability that does not have a fix yet, right?
Wow.
So imagine, I love using the home example. I have a house and I don't know that my back door has a faulty door handle.
Okay.
And someone can tap the door handle twice and it just
Right.
opens. The door just opens,
Yeah.
right? The alarm doesn't go off. The cameras can't see me.
Right.
And you don't know that. You think that I closed the door, I thought I locked it, everything's good. Well, there's no fix for that right now, right? And so you look at your phone, your tablet, your email, some of the systems you use, things like that come up every single day.
Wow.
And then when there is no fix and maybe a vendor is not fixed that yet, all of us are open to being attacked in some way, shape, or form. And so what people are doing kind of in this, they are creating exploits to take advantage of that 0 day.
Okay.
And there's different forms of hackers, right? So they have what are called black hats. Black hats are people that are doing something, I would say, with evil intentions, just being direct. They want to cause harm. They want to do something maybe because of a political agenda, because of their own sort of feelings around a certain group of people
Right.
or organizations. You have white hats, which is on the opposite end, and these are people that they'll find something, they'll report it to the company in a responsible way, so that company can go fix it, and it's not in the news, and it's not out there. Then you have gray hats that are kind of like, I could go either way depending on how the day goes.
Right.
But with that being said, people that are out there, they're creating these exploits and they put it on the dark web and they sell it. They sell it. You hear about ransomware, you hear about all these attacks, you hear about a lot of things with phones and things like that. Even a lot of our personal information, social security numbers, emails, phone numbers, addresses, IP addresses, which trace back to where you are, all that information is sold.
Right.
It's a business. And it costs money. We do assessments at times for organizations, and we're able to give them a figure of how much their data liability, how much data they have that they shouldn't,
Right.
how much it would cost on the dark web. So
well, okay. I got to pull my whiteboard in on this. This is getting kind of deep here.
Yeah.
So I want to pull up my whiteboard and help me with this and see if they can pull this up for me. So there's kind of two sides here, and I want you to help me with this. So all business has a business structure, and in a business structure, we have, let's say we have an organization that looks something like this, right? And there's people who assist, right? And there appears to be like a normal kind of business structure and company operation, but then we've got, I'm going to call this the hacker structure. And so they essentially can be just as organized. I mean, a literal mirror of what is happening in normal business, where they've got people whose assignment is to research, certain things, find certain gaps and vulnerabilities, and so forth. Then we have business operations. And normally when you have an operation in a business, and I'm going to center this around the operation of having a product to sell. So let's say, in all business, we have to get some leads, right? We're going to sell some sort of product, and then we're going to deliver, that product, whatever that product is. Let's just say it's like this little box. So are you saying that on this hacker side, of course, when you think about leads, I mean, every time that they get access to a vulnerability or someone's data or whatever, it's kind of like an opportunity for them, right? And then when we talk about selling, there's something that they're packaging available to sell. And maybe you can break this down for us, but this could even be, this could even be your data that you want back, right? Has become the product, right? And then the delivery could actually be maybe giving you access to your own stuff, or someone that wants information to do something with it, they're willing to provide that for you. So talk about this a little bit. I'm going to make this line here like a red line here. So am I looking at this right? Like, what is this business on the right side of the red line?
This is beautiful. I love how you break this down. And, we talk about sales funnels a lot. I love this.
Yeah.
So your leads are at the top, and that's where you get the most traffic, right? imagine I find a vulnerability, but there's 100 million people with a Samsung Galaxy and an Apple iPhone. Imagine in your business, you just woke up, and business owners know, you wake up and you had a million leads.
Wow.
Right? Imagine you were able to compromise something and you affected 100 million people around the world, right? You're not even subjected to a region.
Right.
Right? And so now you have all these people that you can target. And then, I always say this a lot of times in my trainings to corporations. Hackers don't care about who you are, where you are, what you have. They care about how vulnerable you are, right? So it's not a specific person per se. They care to attack the most vulnerable. You could be young and pretty knowledgeable about how to use your phone.
Right.
You're vulnerable because you don't care about your security. And I think the FBI puts a report out about how 65% of attacks that happened was due to elder scams.
Okay.
So you think about people in our lives that we care about, that maybe 65 and above, they are targets because they're vulnerable and they don't understand the technology.
Yeah.
So what's happening is, to your point, they come up with something, they test all these technologies out, and they call them security researchers in the corporate side, right? That's
right.
the proper term for them, security. They're researching about security, right?
Hackers with good intent.
Hackers with good intent, right? And so companies have created whole, what they call bug bounty programs, right? And you can learn how to hack, right? Learn how to exploit things and do it for good. And they'll pay you a lot of money for it.
Wow.
And there's places like HackerOne and BugCrowd and things like that. But
so you're finding the vulnerabilities before the hacker and trying to do something good.
Trying to tell the company, and there's a specific way to report, they responsibly disclose that information.
Okay.
And then they'll pay you money for it.
Wow.
Yeah. So now, to your point, back to your diagram, which was so beautiful, is that now on the red side, on the hacker side, hacker organization, you have people whose job is just to figure out what's out there that could be a vector of attack. Then you have people that develop the exploitation, right? So they say, this is interesting. This company just released this new feature. Looks a little weird. Maybe let's try to tap at it a little bit and see what happens.
Write code even.
Right, they write the code
Okay.
to exploit the system.
Right.
Then they say, this works. It's working across multiple systems, multiple accounts. We're starting to do this very effectively. Okay, let's put this on the dark web. And on the dark web is a marketplace. I said marketplace for foolishness. It's just a marketplace to do whatever you want to do. So if there's people out there that don't know how to hack, they'll give you a whole package, tell you exactly how to execute the code, how to run everything, how to get the information. And they say, pay us in Bitcoin, pay us in cryptocurrency, because you can't trace me.
Wow.
So a lot of times, and the really, kind of deep thing is, you have some nations, countries, they have state-sponsored, state-backed and supported security researchers that are looking at exploitations against other countries.
Right.
So this is how you get into a lot of the agency. I mean, everybody does it, but everyone's kind of trying to get at each other to get information.
So this is a whole economy where basically with these digital currencies now, they didn't, before they really existed, hacking was going on, but this has made it even better, right? Because they can get this kind of, untraceable payments. And so in essence, then it's almost like they're creating a hacker university.
Yep.
So not only finding a vulnerability and then making money off the vulnerability, they're actually finding people who want to learn how to be a hacker and teaching them the game.
Yep.
Is that right?
There's this term for people who don't know what they're really doing. They call them script kiddies.
Really?
Yeah, script kiddies. It's a term. It's people that, it's like they take a shotgun approach. They just go on. They might have learned enough to be a little dangerous.
Yeah.
And then they go just start exploiting things and doing things, but they don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
So they could cause a lot of harm. But yeah, it's a marketplace to be able to do all sorts of things to get valuable information for people, and really you're ruining people's lives, and you're really messing up someone's day.
Wow.
I mean, I personally don't like when people mess up a day, but a day is created by you. You have to be able to make it good. But when you find out your information has been leaked, and people are desensitized to it because it happens so often now.
Right. Yeah. So let's do a quick vocabulary, kind of overview. I want to make sure people are getting. So you speaking about a day, but you mentioned 0 day earlier, which was really finding something that's not fixable, I believe.
It's something that is brand new. Let's just say, you have a lot of great products. Let's say you have a feature you haven't released yet. It's it exists, but the world doesn't know it exists.
So is that the 0 part?
That's the 0 day. Yeah, that's the 0 part. It's something that you don't, it's an active vulnerability that you have discovered that companies that are affected by it don't know about, and no one has a fix for it.
Is it a vulnerability that a hacker has found before something is actually released to the public?
No, before something is created to fix it.
Oh.
So that's the 0 day. I have no fix for this. I just found, someone comes to work and they say, hey, there's this 0 day that got thrown out there that everyone's putting on these blogs that say they can exploit, our technology. Did you know about that? No, we got to build a fix for it, right? And they call it like a hot fix. They have to build something right away to try to alleviate a security concern.
So the reason that it's called 0 day though is because is the day representing that now here's the day that we've discovered something that has no fix, like we're at 0?
Yeah, you're at 0. You have this is day 0. I have no. This just started. This has just been brought to us.
Right.
We have nothing for it. And to give you an example of a real case that happened that I helped someone through, there was actually a 0 day that was discovered on a firewall, and it was discovered, and they held it. The hackers had this vulnerability that they exploited hundreds of thousands of firewalls for 2 years, and they released it 2 years later and said that they found it. And the company didn't know. No one knew but them. It was still considered a 0 day. Right. It's just the day you found out.
So that's what I was about to ask you. So is the 0 day not really the hacker language, because the hacker is just trying to exploit the vulnerability? 0 day seems to be for the person being injured, that this is day 0 that we discovered that there's a vulnerability that there's no fix for, and it could be being used by who knows who, but this is day 0 that we now know we got something going on that can be fixed.
Correct.
I see. Yeah. All right. So what about script kiddie? Let's say this again. We can't just let these terms go around.
So script kiddie, in just simple language, is really someone who may have some experience but very little. And they just take and exploit.
Is it a hacker?
A hacker.
A hacker with limited experience.
But they'll just take and exploit that maybe on the dark web, or a script that they found that can do something that's nefarious or dangerous, and they'll just start executing it, just aimlessly, right? They're dangerous, right? They just kind of do things with kind of no purpose, but they're recklessly, right? They just want to just try to cause harm.
So this is even now, I hate to use a streets example, but in our communities, for some, I don't know, going back in history, we've had gangs, right? And but even amongst gangs, there was structure.
Yeah.
There was order. There was a sense of things that you didn't do back in the day, so to speak. And then you hear some of the people who are in that type of life who talk about the young kids coming today, right? And these young kids don't understand that history. And sometimes some of these older ones ended up going to jail for their crimes. It left a ungoverned group of youth who saw the hype of the community or the gang they were in. But now they're just more reckless. They'll do something that even the gang member says, man, we don't do that. You don't do that. You don't do that at a church, or you don't do that to a woman, or you don't do this over here. So is script kiddie almost this type of reckless hacker that is outside of even the standards that a good hacker would follow?
Yeah.
Is it kind of similar?
That's a newfound way to look at it, and I think I would support that. Personally, I would support that. We had an example of this not long ago where a hospital full of people in the ICU got hacked. I mean, it was affecting their machines that they needed to live. And you could tell something got off the rails because someone reversed everything and sent an apology and said, that's not how our hacking group does things.
Really?
Yes.
The hackers apologized.
Yes, because it was someone in there that got off the rails and started just attacking stuff.
Right.
And they're like, man, we don't attack
Like, we
hospitals.
don't hack like that.
Yeah, like, well, because you got to think, they say there's no honor among thieves, but hacking groups and people in technology in general, there's a sentiment, right? A lot of these hacking groups, I'm not naming none because I don't want no
Yeah.
I don't want no
You don't want no
problem.
trouble.
They say I don't want no smoke, right?
Yeah, right.
So really what they do, a lot of them, some of them target things they feel are wrong morally. Some people attack, political figures because they feel it's wrong, what they're doing, or they attack schools, or they attack certain institutions because they feel like you're supporting this or you're supporting that.
Right.
So it's this, to your point, it's this like we're standing for something.
Hacking with a cause.
Hacking with a cause, right?
Yeah.
Then you have people that are in there. A script kiddie, the cool thing about script kiddie is it's no age to that. You be 58, you a kiddie.
Right.
Script kiddie, right? So it's really just how it's really people get excited and they don't understand the effect of what they're doing. And so we've seen examples of people reversing what they've done because they say that's not, you see a lot of major attacks in the world and people they say this organization didn't claim responsibility. They said we wouldn't do that.
Right.
We would do a lot of other stuff.
Right.
We wouldn't do that.
Right.
Right. It's the same thing in the hacking world.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So then that really, it lets us know how organized this really is.
Yep.
Where there's even a set of standards and principles among hackers, right? And some have more principles than others. Some have things they would never do. They create their own rules, and so in a sense, this is what makes them a business. They almost have their own mission statements and visions, and what what their culture is, and what their standards are, and will correct someone who got out of line, right? And so, help me understand this. I'm going back to the whiteboard here again because I want to come back to a funnel you talked about a little bit earlier, but let's talk about the web. So when we talk about the dark web, right? And I mean, what do they call the other web? Just the normal web? It's not the light web, right? So it's just the web, right?
It's layers to it, but we'll just call it the web.
The
web,
just
keep it simple.
So how, explain this dark web, like people crossing over to the dark web. I mean, the internet is we start looking at how everything is connected, all the servers involved and all the things that give us access. But when we say dark web, for people to understand, when you say like your information could be on the dark web, explain the dark web and how does one's information get there? What is this? Where is this at? How do you find it? Where do you go?
So a lot of good questions, and we'll break that up a little bit and just kind of look at it from this perspective. Is that there's the web that we see and we can interact with every day. We go, can log in, go to different websites and enjoy the internet. Now, we do have the dark web in that you have to leverage a separate sort of browser to actually get to it. And then when you get to it, because you got to think, everything's on the internet, right? It's just how do you access this different area on the internet that has a different set of things to see. Okay. Now, when you do, and I'm not going to say it because I don't want nobody trying.
Yeah, we don't want no one. Don't give directions to the darkness. Yeah.
But when you go to a specific sort of browser, you can be able to get to content that is in the dark web.
So before you leave that, when I look at this image that I've created, so in a sense, there is if I was to build a bridge that takes me over to the dark web, it has to do with the browser, right?
Yeah.
And this is for So people that are into this can put stuff in the dark web, and people who want to use the dark web for whatever they want, they gotta know something about how to use their browser to go over there.
Yeah, it's a specific thing you'll download, and it routes your traffic a little differently to get to that side of things. Now, the thing about it is, just because you have that browser and you have that routing and things like that in place, you got to know where to go.
Right.
Right. And so there are a lot of places that will tell you what sites do what. And a lot of it, for the most part, is illegal. Right.
Right.
And so the thing about this, people always wonder, because, you know, everyone has a financial institution that they're banking with, and they'll say, hey, your records were found on the dark web. And you're like, well, how did that happen?
Exactly.
Right? And so this goes back to what we discussed earlier, is that we use so much technology today, and we are trusting companies to keep our data safe.
Right.
Right. And so what happens is, there are some companies that when you sign up for an account and you accept certain terms, they are selling information to data brokers. Right. And when that information's in a data broker, that you can purchase information from data brokers. How many emails do you want to buy? How many phone numbers do you want to buy?
Right.
How many addresses, right? And a lot of that information just funnels into a zip file and it ends up on the dark web, right? So it's leaked, it's out, right? But then there's some people who their companies were attacked and they were able to retrieve or steal databases of information, of customer information, right? And then they release that to the dark web. Right.
Wow.
And so what tends to happen is you get all these messages, and, you know, you get alerts and things come up. Your information's on the dark web, and you're like, okay, what? And then it's like your email, and then it's like your password, and then it's this. It all, we call this supply chain security. I know you have a background in supply chain and procurement.
Right.
So you think about supply chain, there's the company that you're using a service from. There's all what they call sub-processors of your information. So just because it's the company, and you see the logo and the branding and the CEO, there's all these other companies that touch your data one way or another.
Wow.
If any of them in that chain are compromised, your data can be compromised too and end up in the same place.
Wow.
Because there's value to what they call PII, personally identifiable information. Now, we know that, you know, sometimes we say, okay, you got my email, so what, right? It's all good. So you start getting 1 million spam emails every morning, right?
Yeah.
And people just bothering you.
And I don't know how everybody else feels, but that be going on. Like,
It's
where are these
happening.
people? How are people? I mean, phone calls, emails. Like, where is this coming from? So go back to this diagram for a minute. Like, so imagine, you know, we got our, different businesses here or whatever that are stood up, right? But underneath this, there's this structure of data that there's all kind of subgroups and people involved with how all these softwares we use, all the things that we're doing online. And we can go online, for example, and use Google or something to go and search what's going on out here in the normal web. But I would imagine there's something over here, which we won't name, where there's things that people can search for what they're looking for on the dark web, right? And then if we've got, I'm going to draw a red line. So we could say the hackers, could we say, live more over here, and they're coming over here with ill intent to take things back over to this area and then determine how they can make money off of this, right? So it could be a leak, and it could be someone coming with ill intent to not just, so when we say leak, it still is someone, like if I had a leak, determining where that leak went, like is a leak still really being hacked?
It's not being hacked.
Can it be a leak literally like it sounds like, in other words, something that I didn't have trued up allowed my data to go somewhere it wasn't supposed, so it just went to, I wasn't even looking for this and you sent it to me. Could that happen?
Yep, and this is what we call misconfigurations. So that's why it's so important inside your business, if you have people managing your technology, managing your security, that they understand what they're doing, right?
Right.
Because if they don't and they misconfigure something, what's going to happen is they just created the hole.
Wow.
And then someone goes and grabs, you put it on the internet, you made it public.
Right.
So they grab it, and then, a lot of times, some hackers are smooth, they're sophisticated, And then other hackers, they actually go tell people. They'll tell the company, hey, we got your information. I want $20,000. Now I have a story. I do have a funny story I have to tell. Somebody got, we're working in a company and they claimed that they had some exploit for our app and things like that. So we said, okay, just go through the bug bounty program. Like that's a normal way to do it.
Right.
And so it turned out to be a really good one. It was like, man, this is good. So he was like, I want. He was like, well, okay. We like, what do you want? We got on the call. What do you want? He was like, I want a T-shirt with your company branding on it. And I was like, what? I said, what? That's what you want? Yeah. But there's different types of hackers. Some people, it's like a rite of passage. Like all my T-shirts are all the companies I hacked. Like,
really?
Like, you didn't want no money? Like,
right. Yeah.
So he's like, he did end up getting paid, and we did send him a T-shirt. He won on that one. But I just had to bring that up. But it's interesting because misconfigurations is a big one. And then sometimes you got to think social engineering. We talk about that at times. I hate to add that to the glossary here, but social engineering is the art of manipulation and exploitation of people. And so people will be your greatest vector of protection or your greatest risk.
Right.
So not even misconfiguration, it's people being hacked. And when they're hacked, they can leak information.
Right.
And we've seen that I have countless stories of that, but you can see how people can be vulnerable and then they just give something away.
Right.
And then that's
and then the floodgate is open, and you created the entrance because of one irresponsible person in your company or in your home. Right. So this is really, really good, really good. I want to go back for a minute to let's just finish out this funnel a little bit. You mentioned this, that there was a vulnerability found in a cell phone. And let's say there's 1 million leads now for the hackers out there, because we found a vulnerability that ties to all Samsung phones or certain users of this type of model phone, whatever it is. And this is the top of the funnel for them. What does this look like? What happens next? So they find this vulnerability. How do they turn that into a business?
So there's actually recently a great example of this where someone found what they call a one-click vulnerability, meaning like they figured out a way, like even companies like Apple, there's specific things that they say, we will pay you $1 million if you can, break into someone's FaceTime call without even like being on by their phone or something crazy. Like, and there's people that's done that, right? That's why they offer $1 million for it. And people have won that $1 million.
They're paying to find the vulnerability.
Because there's certain things that they know this gets out in the press,
right?
Or it gets out and we can't fix it.
Destroys the business.
Yeah. It don't matter how much money you've been making.
Right.
So you think about this top of the funnel. I find a vulnerability in a cell phone. The way I have a couple options, right? When we talk about offers, I love the things you teach about offers. I could, in turn, have this big team, and this team goes out, and we just try to exploit and figure out who can we exploit with the best opportunity for us to make some sort of gain, whether that's monetarily, whether that's through blackmail, whether that's through threats, or things that could affect a person's family or things like that. Whatever that might be. Now, there's the other side of it, which is, or I have the vulnerability, I have a way to exploit this. Let me go sell this. Let me go on the dark web and let me sell these exploits. And as many people that want to buy this at this rate, I'm almost, to what you teach about one to many. Now I have, it's 1 million leads, but there's 10,000 hackers that are willing to pay me $100,000 in Bitcoin, right? And then how that's more of an asset now.
Right.
I could cash that out. I can make a lot of money. And now I made all this money, and it's like,
and I'll just step out.
I'll step out. You just do what you want to do with it. I don't care who you target.
Wow.
Do what you want to do.
So almost like the middle of this funnel, once I find the vulnerability, is I can apply blackmail, threats. I put threatist. I don't know what that is. Threat, pressure. even say I'm going to sell horizontally to other hackers. Like, I'm not going to get the full money I could have got maybe if I stayed in the game for all the million leads and dealt with, but I'll just take my money and run and let those other 10,000 hackers go make whatever they're going to do. So they could be literally thinking this way. And I guess kind of the big money is when somebody basically has to pay the ransom, so to speak, right? So like when someone actually pays the ransom, or, is gonna, some hackers, they're not content with the t-shirt and stuff, right? They want some serious. So this is, again, where they're almost viewing this like a funnel and back into the business of hacking. Now, tell me in this whole discussion how artificial intelligence plays a role in this, right? Now we got artificial intelligence. Everyone talks about the good about it, but what about AI, and how is it being used, and is it being used in the dark side?
The dark.
Yeah.
I was born in the dark.
Yeah.
You thought darkness was your ally. So I had to do it.
Oh, then we got to go there.
But I will say this, AI has greatly accelerated this process. So what used to be a lot of work to make this whole process happen has now become very, we use the term AI agents.
Yeah.
And you have almost now these other employees, and it's interesting, right? What if I had a team of, 10 hackers or 100 hackers across the world? But now I could just use AI and it's just me and I make all that money, right? Layoffs among hackers. Layoffs among hackers, right?
Yeah, right.
So, now you're using you're building this AI.
So AI is even causing layoffs among the hackers. This is some powerful stuff. Yeah.
I could ride solo. I don't need nobody. I got it. Right. So now you're looking at AI agents being used. People are, using some of these common LLMs, and they're feeding it information. You got to think about all the information that a very experienced hacker has. They're able to contain all that information and then put it in on top of an LLM and say, okay, build an exploit that does 1, 2, and 3, and it takes
break that down.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Large language model.
Okay.
So the basis of all artificial intelligence comes with large language models, and these are models by which, in simple terms, information is all gathered in the code by how things are reasoned when you prompt an AI tool, right? So I use a ChatGPT, I use a Gemini, I use a Claude, I use some of these other tools. I'm actually asking it things, but there's a way that it's interpreting what I'm saying, taking all the information that it's been trained on, and giving me some sort of output.
So the act of AI moving into the ability to have artificial reasoning is through the large language model, and you can leverage this to create agents that actually are following certain patterns of reasoning to go and find vulnerability.
Exactly.
Wow.
And now you've duplicated yourself. So now when I'm asleep, this whole process is running.
Wow.
Right? So I wake up, found something else, found something else, right? Because I've been able to automate and leverage artificial intelligence and reasoning to do the things I needed to do to get to the outcome I'm looking for.
Wow.
And so now AI has accelerated this, and now, you're looking at, I don't even want to get into quantum computing, how quantum is like, it's pushing, because you have almost unlimited compute to be able to push all of this. And so now you're seeing that a lot of people are, they think they're being attacked by a person. They're being attacked by really technology.
Yeah, just like you getting phone calls thinking you're talking to a person and you're talking to technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now we're kind of in this space where they had a recent sort of study that happened where there was a vulnerability that AI was able to find, and it was able, as these tools to defend kept trying to fight it, it would change how its whole code change itself, become something else, almost like a cancer, and get around all the controls and keep attacking. So it's like, but it has all this reasoning, and it's out reasoning a person in a security operations center looking at this thing like, how do I stop it, right? And that's the newfound danger, is that you have this thing that's just thinking on itself. No one has to even touch it.
Wow.
And it's just running.
Wow. So this is, it's a little scary, but at the same token, when you think about this, it also has created an enormous opportunity.
Correct.
Because business is about solving problems. And this is a problem.
This is a big problem.
This is a problem. So tell me a little bit, with the time we have left, I really want to understand from you what opportunities are in this space now in terms of people who want to build a career, people who want to create more opportunity for themselves. Maybe I'm already in the tech, IT type of space, and I'm thinking about, learning about other things that could give me more opportunity. Maybe I'm a person who is trying to find myself in career. I'm interested in technology like you were as a young man, but I might be older now or whatever, but I see an opportunity. Tell me what's going on, and where are the opportunities now? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn to actually have an opportunity in this area?
Very good question. And I want to start off by addressing that from this perspective. We see that a lot of companies are adopting AI. They're trying to leverage it at the largest levels to replace certain things that they feel it can replace. Cybersecurity, you just created a brand new set of jobs. No matter how technology keeps adjusting and changing, you're always going to have a need for people to secure technology. It can't secure itself, right? And even in AI, they have this term called human in the loop. Like, that's an interesting term, right? Why is it that we don't trust the AI just to do its thing and we don't watch it? Right? Just like you may have a kid or a niece or, and they're a toddler. You're not just going to let them go run around. You're watching them, right? Because they can do anything, right? And so in this time period, there's, as you know, the news runs news cycles and they love to run it. AI is going to take all the job. It creates this fear, and people that don't do enough research don't look for the opportunity, right? This happened in the .com boom where people were like, internet, like, what are we talking? We ain't get on the internet, right? But look, when people are doing all business on the internet, right? And so this is just another opportunity. So for those that may be in a position where, and I was once there, I remember being out of high school, stocking shelves and, working overnight, and I was like, this is not it. I was like, I see something greater for my life than working here all night, right? And so, I have to clarify though, there's a lot of people out there that put a lot around, they market the wrong things, and they market, I work from home and I'm watching Netflix in the middle of the day, and I'm going on these vacations. It's work. Anything you're going to do in this life is going to be work.
That's right.
But the opportunity for freedom, like you talk about, achieving wealth, achieving a certain level of freedom, right, in your life, in your wealth and different things like that, it can greatly accelerate through a career in technology. And so a lot of it is really being able to, have the right mentorship. One thing I learned from you, and I always quote you in all my webinars, is getting a piece of paper with your name on it that says you can do something.
That's right.
Right? Because, that could be a degree, that could be a certification, that could be a certificate program, but you have to have something that says, I can do this thing. And everyone thinks about everything we just discussed, and they're probably like, I can't defend against no AI. But once you get the right training, you're like, oh, this is all that's happening. But you have to gain a certain amount of depth to understand, oh, I know how to defend against this. I know what we need to do. These are the leading practices, right? There's all these different people that are at the head of research to defend. And so you can almost, I feel like I'm like recruiting for the military or something.
Yeah.
You can make a difference, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's something that you can do. And I often try to tell people this because there's so many people, they're stuck. And you all often say this a lot of times in a lot of your videos about in their mind, how they think about themselves, how they think about technology as a barrier, something they can never learn.
Right.
They say their name and something negative behind it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you know, I'm going to try.
Right.
What if I could go from making $60,000 to $90,000? Right. And now I can work. I could work from home a couple days a week, and that gives me a little bit more flexibility. I'm with my family a little bit more, or you know, I'm able to keep growing in my career to where maybe I do create my own business, and now you know my opportunity for income is pretty infinite. Right. It's up to me.
Right.
And so I just say there's so much opportunity here that, you know, there's still millions. And I think there was a study that said there was, at least in certain parts of America, hundreds of thousands of jobs unfulfilled in IT.
Right.
And cybersecurity is even more than that. And so I just think that there's so much opportunity, but I think there is a lot of fear out there of maybe you went from a forklift or working in retail to like, I'm about to be on a computer protecting a company, right? But it's progression, and I believe you can do it.
No, thank you for going into that. And so I want to, before we close, I want you to tell people out there, what are you doing now? What are you working on that could help people in that journey? So how do people work with you? What are the ways they can work with you? I know you do, you know, specific things in your company, but how can people work with you? And then if I want to actually have some guidance, because I do want to go on this journey of making more money, advancing my life, my career, having more freedom, and not listening to the thoughts that tell me I can't and I don't know, and I'm, you know, I always get twisted up on technology, computers, and all this stuff. Where can I go to help rearrange that furniture in my head and start having a real opportunity? Tell me what you're doing right now and how people can contact you.
Very good. Yeah, I've created what's called the Keys to Cyber Academy. And that is an academy that is built for individuals who want to grow and progress in a career in technology. We love to tell people from a perspective of, you know, a lot of people will say, well, I have YouTube and I have Udemy and I have Coursera, and why would I come to a mentorship program?
Right.
No one has got anywhere in their entire life without a mentor.
That's right.
And you know, I didn't get where I am right now without a mentor. You have mentored me, right? I've invested in myself. And there's things in this program that are designed to not only give you the skills, but give you the right way to think about how to get in, but when you're in, how do you grow?
Right.
Because that's a totally different battle. Some people think the finish line is that I got in, but you don't know it's a whole different set of things to deal with once you make it to the big company and the big logo, and they give you the jacket and the nice laptop, and it's a whole different world to deal with in knowing how to progress. And so that's something we're working on currently right now, and people that want to be a part of that, we are have a lot of things attached to my social media, which will be in the description of the video, but you know, reach out to me. You know, we're actually starting pilot programs, and we're getting people onboarded, and so we love making a difference.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so we're going to make sure we're going to put in the description of this video, you know, a link to whatever you can do to help them. I'm all for this. You have my full support, Marquis. I love what you're doing. I love that you're creating opportunities for people. And anyone out there that sees this, I want them to know about you, that you know, you're the real deal. And I know you know this stuff, and you can really help people, and people can receive a real opportunity. And I know what you're saying too, because in this space, opportunity can come so quickly. Like you can go from barely making anything to being like in companies that you watch and see and consume their products all the time. And now you're sitting in there because this is such a high demand area. Right. So you have to know not just how to get the certificate, but how to navigate all those waters. How do you deal with career path and dealing with people in difficult situations that come up when you're now in these businesses. And so I know you're working on that to do more than you're going beyond the certification. You're going into actually how to navigate this world. So I want to thank you for all that you shared on here, Marquis. It's been outstanding.
Thank you.
And I want all of you out there to keep in mind, listen, this is something that we can't just ignore. We can't act like it's not out here. You can't even say, I'm going to ignore this and just let it do what it does. This is going to hit your life in some way. I've been, experienced situations of hacking. I've seen certain things happen to me in my personal life, my businesses, and this is going to reach all of us at some point in our life. And we want to take this seriously. We want to learn more about good, hygiene with our cybersecurity efforts and doing the things that we know to do. So make sure you don't just, take this lightly. Really think deeply about things you can do that will actually help to, harden the systems around your technology and the things that are important to you. You heard about the difference between so many elements of this and what privacy is about and what security is about. Make sure that you seek more knowledge and information from people like Marquis and MSC Security. All these different areas, will provide you that opportunity now. And if you're out there and you want to make more money, there's no better industry to get in than technology. It is going to be here. There is not anything that AI and all this new stuff can do to stop the fact that there's going to always be bad people out there trying to do stuff they shouldn't do, and someone has to be fighting for the security of the people. And so this is an industry that's going to be here for a long time. So if you're looking for an opportunity, make sure you look into what Marquis is doing with this academy. I know it'll have a change in your life. So as always, continue to be the CEO where you charge, expand, and you overcome. We believe that if we have that mindset in all that we do, we can pursue the ultimate freedom. Thank you again. God bless.